All right. Well, I'm super excited to have two of our silver and blue Valiants that rocked it back in 1978 when we won that CIF championship football game. Gentlemen, that's what's eluded me right now. As the athletic director, going into my 22nd year here at St. Genevieve, we've got to get that CIF championship banner up on that wall again, as you guys did. So let's just talk about that for a second. George Gomez, Kevin McConville, what did it feel like, gentlemen, in 1978 when you won that CIF championship?
Go ahead, George. Baby. No, you go, man. You go. All you.
All right. Well, listen, as coming into high school and following all the local Valley high schools and knowing that CIF championship is the ultimate goal. I mean, it was an incredible feeling. It's, that's why we are who we are today in terms of friendships, in terms of alumni. It was just unprecedented. My brother was part of that class of 71 when they won it in 1970. And so here we are in 1978, and we just, little St. Genevieve's, beating up on a 4A Notre Dame, beating up on Alemany, going on the road during the playoffs and just taking care of business. It was just unbelievable support. We had a large amount of alumni coming and supporting us. It was just great. And again, little underrated St. Genevieve's. It doesn't even have their own football field, barely has a practice field, but we had athletes. We had great athletes. We had student athletes. We had great coaching. We had a great staff. So all of it comes together, and there's nothing better. I mean, we'll have this forever. 1978 CIF champions.
Well, you just gave me chills.
I know.
I mean, that just gave me chills. And George, what I like about that is the way you painted that picture. I almost felt like I was there. I was feeling it because, the valiant spirit is within all of us. And I'm telling you honestly, I have chills right now just hearing that story. So,
right.
Kevin,
it's going back. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because they talk about high school nowadays recruiting you. Right. And this is that. And I go, let me tell you something, people. This has been going on since 1975, maybe earlier than that. I would say maybe what was 70? What year was it in sixth grade, George? 72 or 70?
73, 74, 75.
So right around them, the local high schools were kind of recruiting myself and George. They did it a certain way that people didn't even realize they were recruiting you. The St. Genevieve's didn't have the football field. So the Notre Dame's,
St. Francis
would have flag football tournaments. And so you got to understand something. This gentleman right next, on the screen with you and myself, we didn't play tackle football until we got into high school. Right. So we didn't put on pads until our freshman year, August of 1975. So we go there. And actually, I wasn't really going to St. Genevieve's because, we were getting recruited from Alemany, Notre Dame and this and that. We were kind of getting pushed into Alemany here and there and pushed into St. Genevieve's and this and that. And, my decision when people ask me, what made you go to St. Genevieve's? They had no football field. They had no baseball field. They had no basketball field. And it's kind of funny. You know what it was? Is St. Genevieve's was the only school that didn't make you shave your head to play football.
Okay.
Final decision for me to roll into St. Genevieve's our freshman year. And I think it all started that summer, that August of 1975, going into, we had a core group of guys on that team that played flag football their whole life. And then we had a core group of guys on that team, like the Dave Danigers, the Mike McClone, the Mark Borellis, the Ricky Montezes, and the list goes on, that were just studs in the Pop Warner side of it. So we had guys that knew how to mix it up on the Pop Warner side of playing tackle football. And we had these athletes that came in, I would say, that played a lot of flag football, that knew how to stay away from getting hit, per se. We didn't mind mixing it up and loved to mix it up once we got used to the shoulder pads and helmet. But it was crazy. I think it all started then. And then it kind of went, it was crazy, Marlon. I think freshman year, Coach Benson, who just passed away, a class of 72, we were, like George said, we had harmless fun, is what I like to say. We had a coach, Marlon, 1975. We were spray painting the coach's helmets, or actually the football players' helmets. And a group of us, before we even walked onto St. Genevieve's campus and became students, we painted the coach's car. He had a VW Bug, and it was sitting there, and he's in the locker room, and we sprayed his car silver, and we put a blue stripe down the middle of the helmet, and we hid in the corner. And as he walked out of the gym, he looked at the car, and he's just like screaming, "What did you guys do? What did you guys do?"
Yeah.
But actually, it kind of started from then. And then I think we just kind of went on freshman year, and we had our, our licks from there, and got better and got better. We put the right pieces into place, and then off we went our senior year. And we talked about this recently. Freddie Grimes, who was a legend in the high school level, and and he came in our senior year into playoffs.
Yep.
And again, back then we didn't watch film. You know what I mean? We didn't break down a defense. They said, okay, here's the play, run the play, hike the ball. We didn't have a quarterback coach. We just had, you had Lyndon, obviously, who was Lyndon. We had Joe Fama. We had Gary Payne. We had Ed Croson, as we all know, is a legend, and so we just went. And Freddie Grimes, I remember that first game of playoffs, he comes in, he's our quarterback coach, basically, our helping out on the offense. And he looks at me and he goes, if the corner back does this, you do that. Mm-hmm. And I went, wow, that's like cheating. You know what I mean? And that was like, and I knew before we played one playoff game that we were CIF champs. From that moment on.
That takes me right into what I wanted to ask you guys. Think back. I mean, we're back there right now in 78. What would it have been, guys? December, maybe, when you played that game? Yeah. November, December?
George on the
December 14th.
Okay.
No, December 15th.
Well, let's think back to December 15th, 1978. Where did you play the game? Where was the championship game held?
It was supposed to be at UC Riverside. And for whatever reason, there was a mix-up, and we ended up playing at Ramona High School in Riverside, which was a huge high school and huge facility. But I mean, it was tough. It was essentially a home game for Elsinore, a road game for us. And Elsinore was huge. They looked like, when they came out, they looked like Ohio State. They had the same color uniforms. They had incredible athletes. They had running backs that ran, in the nines and at the 100-yard level at that time. Just incredible athletes. And they had knocked off, they upset Mary Star, which was in our league. They upset their number one team in their league. So they were on a roll. And again, for us to go there on a road trip and coming off the Russian flu and just coming off beating the hell out of Alamany 35-14 on their home field in the semifinals, we were just like, holy Toledo, let's collect ourselves up and get ready for this, because it's back to back. And, again, we had an incredible coaching staff. We had a great game plan, and we executed on it. And we just took care of business. We dominated Elsinore, outrushed them, held them to under 200 yards in total offense. It was just an incredible performance. Kevin threw 4 TDs. I caught 2 of them and ran for a third. It was just such an offensive balance and an incredible defensive scheme that the coaches, again, we just dominated people. Like Kevin said, it was just like cheating. No one could beat us at that time. We were on a roll like no other team. And again, we're the only team in CIF in the San Fernando Valley to come home with the post-season CIF championship. There wasn't another city team that won a city title or another CIF team. And so it was an awesome feeling. It was an incredible feeling. And just the amount of people and support that was there is just like no other.
Well, let me ask both of you, think back, at what moment during that game did you say, oh my goodness, we're going to win a CIF championship?
Well, I'll go back to, like I said, before the playoffs started, I knew we were champs. I'm telling you right now, I kind of walked in and I kind of went at things maybe a little different than most. Maybe it wasn't cockiness, but it was just knowing that once Lyndon said, okay, playoffs comes around, he goes, you're going to get the ball. We're opening up our offense. People don't have no idea. When we won all right. went through league, I basically just said down, said hut, and turned around and handed the ball off because we didn't want to show anybody anything. That was our thing. We beat Alamany the first time 14-7. And I knew we were playing Alamany, for the semifinal game, and people are going, what do you think is going to happen? I go, we'll beat Alamany by at least 21. And everybody's like, you're crazy. These are people like that are ex-alumni. You know, these are people that went to Alamany, because a lot of people, you know, the St. Genevieve's group and the Alamany group, you know, they still went to grammar school together. You know, they just split up when they went to high school. And we beat Alamany by 21 that night, you know, before the championship game. I remember George, myself, Mike McClone, Lyndon Crowe, we went down to the banquet that they have before the championship game. And, you know, they're sizing us up. And like George says, they look like Ohio State. You got to understand something. George was 5'8", you know, 140 pounds in the program. I was 5'7", 135 pounds in the program senior year, right? So these guys are looking at us, and I just knew, I kind of knew going in we're okay, you know. But the changing point was at halftime. We were losing at halftime in that game. And they were sending everybody, Marlon. I mean, everybody. They were just 8, 9 guys coming every down. So at halftime, you know, Lyndon and basically Freddie were going, what's going on out there? I go, look, we just got to run the 25 cut. And basically that was just, you know, on a handoff play. And sure enough, we started handing the ball off outside. I started changing plays and doing this and calling some quarterback sneaks. So it had to make them a little bit more honest. The next thing you know, Sean Green, who was our tailback at that time, another Holy Rosary kid that played flag football his whole life. And he just started going off, you know, and once that happened, that defense had to be honest. Like George said, I threw 4 TD passes, but I also put the ball in the end zone twice on 2 bad snaps on field goals. So we actually put the ball in the end zone 6 times that night, which was unforgettable. You know, never forget it.
Love it. George,
Yeah.
George, when did you know you were going to win a CIF title?
You know, we actually, Kevin, I think we were up 15-12. I'm looking at the stats.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. 15-12 at half.
We were up 15-12 at halftime, but we scored late. And, you know, and kind of Elsinore was just, you know, they were hanging with us. But, geez, we just came out in the second half, and our defense stepped up, caused like consecutive turnovers, and we capitalized. We scored 21 unanswered points, and we just took control of the entire second half. And by the third quarter, Marlon, after we went up another touchdown, you know, that was it. We were done. We just knew that we were going to take care of business. We had no doubt in our minds that our defense was going to hold, and they just shut them down completely. And we just knew. So going into the third quarter, after we scored initially, right off the bat, boom, that was it. We were done. It was ours.
Well, that must be an awesome feeling. You know, for myself, playing high school football, always got knocked out in the semifinals of the state, never made it to the state championship. And that's something that I just look back and just wish that I had that opportunity to play in a big game like that. Here at St. Genevieve, I have to tell you guys, back in 2008, we went in and played West Adams Prep, first game of the season. And we had no business, kind of like what you guys are saying. We had no business on the field with West Adams Prep. I mean, they had 5 guys that were D1 players going D1. And, you know, our running back was 5'6", you know, 140 pounds. And they beat our JV right before the varsity game that night. They beat our JV by 82 points.
Oh, my gosh.
They wouldn't even allow us to sit on the same side as them in the stands. They put us in some little picnic tables on the other side.
Right.
And we played them that night, and we tied up the game. We went to double overtime. We scored, and we went for 2, and we beat them. And the feeling that I felt that night, the pride of St. Genevieve, hugging parents that I had never spoken to before, cheerleaders going nuts, you know, hugging the players. So for you guys that night, December 15th, 1978, what was the feeling like, the valiant spirit that night? You mentioned alumni were there, obviously cheerleaders. Did we have a marching band then?
Yep.
Band was there. What will you take away from that night? And George, I'm going to start with you. What will you take away from that night that has stuck with you forever?
There's a great picture of my dad and I after the game. I mean, we had to travel that far, and to have a small community like that show up in force was phenomenal. And in fact, let me step away and grab that picture real quick.
Oh, great.
I've given this to my dad, rest in peace, for a birthday present.
Cowboy hat.
I don't know if you could see that. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
But you can see Dave Daniger in the background with his family. My dad's on the field with me, and it's just it was incredible to, again, to have the family and fans there. I think we rented a couple school buses to bring to students to the game. And yeah, it was just that valiant family. On the way home, our bus broke down. We were supposed to get back to St. Genevieve's to the campus, like by midnight or something. And we ended up getting back around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And there was just a ton of people still on campus waiting for us to cheer us on as we rolled up. And I mean, we're talking alumni, current students. It was just an incredible feeling.
God, there was a lot of special moments at the end of that. One I'll never forget, because Mr. Hoffman, who was the vice principal back then, there was a few cherishing moments during the course of that season that he got a chance to feel what you were talking about earlier, that you didn't get to feel it. He didn't get to feel it until that year. One was beating Notre Dame, and we'll probably talk about that here in a minute. But seeing Mr. Hoffman and just giving me that look, like, you know what I mean? You did it, man. Way to go. Way to step up. Way to get it done. There was a gentleman in my lifetime. His name was Fred Leland. And
Yep. Freddie and Griffith.
Fred was ooh, excuse me. Wow. Didn't know where that was going to come from. But he was that dude for me, He coached us in flag football coming up. Never missed a game I played in high school or George.
He used to sit on the sidelines and watch us from freshman year all the way through senior year. He just kind of stand back and just watch and just, had a smile from ear to ear. Incredibly proud of us, because I know he was Kevin's mentor and just an incredible support for Kevin, all through grade school and into the high school. Coach Leland and his daughter Carissa went to St. Genevieve's with us. She was in our class. So
yeah, so thanks for stepping in there, George. I appreciate it. Like you always done, you always got my back. But Fred was that dude. My mom and dad were the greatest mom and dad, and I know George feels that way about his parents, but my mom and dad never missed a game I played. But my mom never drove. Here's a lady that had 10 kids and she never drove. Well, Fred was that guy that picked me up and took me to Little League games and took me to the batting cage and took me to the high school football games around town to watch the 70, St. Genevieve's games and the Alamany games and the Poly games. But he just, to make him so proud, really was it for me.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. And, that kind of segues in, Kevin, to, this pandemic that we're going through. And, kids aren't allowed to be on campus and we're online learning. And, our athletes are really struggling because, sports, the bond that you have with coaches, the kids are really missing that. And, we're going to jump in here because and this is no disrespect to teaching. I'm a teacher as well, an educator, but I think those of us that have played a sport, we know that you form certain bonds with coaches. And to see you tear up, Kevin, to think about people who've made such an impact in your life. And we see it, the blood, the sweat, the tears, you hear about it. And that's why I was alluding to how you felt after winning that CIF championship, because the hugs of your coaching staff, your teammates, we go through it as teammates, but we love our coaches. And so what would you say that maybe you guys took away from your teammates? I mean, here you are, here we are in 2020, and we're talking about 1978. And Kevin, you just said to George, thanks, buddy, for stepping in. You always had my back. That's what teammates do. Eric Kramer and I were talking about this last week, because he and I were college teammates. And you're always going to be brothers and you're going to have one another's back. So what do you guys feel that you learned or that you've taken from your coaches or from your teammates?
Go ahead, George.
Well, you can't answer that question without thinking of Coach Crowe. And she's now I'm going to get emotional. Yeah, I mean, Coach Crowe, came in the end of our freshman year after Coach Rivness left to go down to India. And as a sophomore, he brought me up to varsity, which I really had no business doing because, again, just my experience level at, tackle football. But I ran track. I had a little bit of speed, so they wanted me, on the team, and I did that. But just the support and the backing and the confidence that those coaches even had at that point, and a little freshman, sophomore like me, receiving that encouragement, that confidence from the coaching staff that you always looked up to and had the utmost respect for, that speaks volumes to student athletes, especially younger underclassmen. And as Kevin said, we played, we've been student athletes and played sports together since fourth grade, and those relationships continue to this day. I mean, 45 years later, it's incredible. And we just had our 40-year reunion last year. We had an incredible turnout, and we still talk about the highlights of our years at St. Genevieve's. But I mean, Coach Crowe was that. Coach Leland to Kevin, Coach Crowe was that to me. Just an incredible amount of support, confidence, a lot of patience, but held us, accountable and made sure that, we followed his instruction and his direction. And so, yeah, I mean, relationships with coaches, with your teammates, they're lifelong at St. Genevieve's. That's when you bleed silver and blue, it's for your lifetime. It really is. And go ahead, Kev.
Yeah. I mean, Marlon, I talk about this all the time. I think I learned most of my life lessons on the football field or on the baseball field. I learned most of my life lessons from the coaches, the Mr. Griffin, the Fred Lelands of the world. But then you got Mr. Lyndon Crowe, 4-time All-American or All-American at USC, 4-time, All-Pro in the NFL. And, I was talking to a gentleman one time, and he best described, he goes, what the heck was Lyndon Crowe ever doing at St. Genevieve's? You know what I mean? Talk about a guy that was too overqualified for a job or for a position. Why did he choose us at that time? So everything kind of lined up perfectly for us. I remember freshman year, I didn't play quarterback freshman year. Even though I played quarterback most of my life growing up, I didn't play quarterback because, back in the day, if you played quarterback, you didn't get to do anything else, So you had one side of the field, you had wide receiver Kevin McConnell. On the other side of the field, you had George Gomez. And our freshman year, we never caught one pass. You know what I mean? Because we could, the guy who was our quarterback at the time became our offensive power guard, our senior year. And I remember was Dana Potter. You might know that name. Dana Potter was MVP of the San Fernando Valley with Anthony Davis. And that team, my JV year, Dana Potter saw me throw the football around before practice one day. He goes, how come you're not playing quarterback? I go, because you guys won't let me do this. And he goes, well, you're going to be quarterback. And make a long story short, the first game I played quarterback in was my JV year. George wasn't on the team at that time. He got pulled up. We're playing against Sarah. As we all know, Sarah's another legendary team. And back then, Marlon, I'll tell you what, you couldn't call timeout from the sidelines.
Oh.
So we're losing. We're going down. We're driving down the field. Down set hut, hand the ball off. Down set hut, hand the ball off. And we're losing 12 to 8. And I remember it so well. And that's when that team kind of became my team, not my team, but that's when that team changed right there on that moment. Sure enough, coaches back then receiver runs in the play. They didn't do the hand signals like they do now. They ran the receivers off and on. They come running into play. And I'm telling everybody, nobody called timeout. Nobody called timeout. Nobody called timeout. We're not going to call the play. We're not going to call whatever that play is. Receiver runs in. I say, get out of my huddle. And he's like, what? Get out of my huddle. So he goes jogging off. You got Gary Payne, Dana Potter, Mike Slimak screaming from the sidelines, timeout, timeout. I'm telling everybody, nobody called timeout. Nobody called timeout. And I go, man, that cornerback keeps crashing. I hand the ball off to Kenny. Kenny, you keep getting tackled. I go, everybody do the same thing. Do the same run block. Kenny, I'm going to fake the handoff to you. You dive into the pile. Randy Weaver, God rest his soul. I go, you're going to be wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. Let's go win this thing, right? So we walk up to line of scrimmage. Coaches are still going nuts. I go down set hut, fake the ball to Kenny. Randy's open by 10 yards in the end zone. Throw it to him. Let's walk off, go home. We win the game. So that was when that team kind of changed, and it kind of got to, that trust thing that you're talking about, and that, it was an unbelievable moment. And that was 47 years ago, you know what I mean? However long it was a long time ago. But Dana Potter, who was the coach of the team, was in the shower with me after the game with his clothes on, screaming at me, going, "That a boy, that a boy, that a boy." That's what it's all about,
Wow.
And again, the relationships, to this day, those are my closest friends. My closest friends. Like I said, from going all the way back to August of 1975, painting a coach's car, doing things, we were such a tight group of friends that we're still best friends to this day.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, George mentioned it. You've mentioned it. I mean, there's something about St. Genevieve that you really make lifelong friends. And,
yes.
I've made some great friendships with teachers, coaches, alumni, obviously the players that I've coached here for 21 years, stay in very close contact with them. And it's a family. We are a family here. Here we are, on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock,
right,
talking about St. Genevieve. The one thing, like I said, I've been here 2 decades now. The one thing that I don't want to say regret, because I don't have regrets, but I never got to meet Coach Crowe.
Mm.
And, I've obviously heard so much about him. To be honest with you, I kind of feel his spirit around here. I know he was the athletic director as well. And I want to fill those shoes the best that I can, because all I hear and I love is the legendary Coach Crowe. So this might be an emotional one, but I need for you guys to tell me, what is it about Coach Crowe? What impact did he have? I mean, it feels like he had an impact on students, not just the players that he coached, but just the whole community. So what was it about Lyndon Crowe that made him such a legend on the St. Genevieve campus?
Go ahead, George.
Well, it's funny when, being the student athletes that we were at that time when Coach Crowe came in, we kind of knew about his history, his background. We were not too impressed or really talking about his accolades. Again, this guy was an All-American at USC from the San Joaquin Valley, came down and was, won the Rose Bowl championship, was an NFL All-Pro, led the NFL in interceptions one year, played in the 1958 Classic NFL title game against Johnny Unitas when he was with the Giants. Think about that coaching staff that the New York Giants had. Eubanks was the head coach. Tom Landry was the offensive coordinator. Vince Lombardi was the defensive coordinator. That's incredible. Look at that knowledge that Coach Crowe brought, that experience that he brought to Little St. Genevieve's. And we all received it, unknowingly. Years later, when ESPN was bringing that to highlight and really showcasing Coach Crowe in those years, and we just took a step back and we're saying, wow, we didn't even think twice about, our time with him. But obviously down many years later, it became an incredible, what a wow moment that we were so fortunate to have Coach Crowe in our lives. But Coach Crowe he commanded respect, but yet he had a lot of confidence and respect for you as well as a student athlete. As Kevin said, he was smart defensively. He was conservative offensively. And we didn't open up our offense at all until we got into the playoffs. And it kind of frustrated Kevin and I because, we could have really taken care of business and padded our stats more so than what we did. We're talking Kevin here, CIF Player of the Year. There was 4 guys that made all CIF on that team. Myself, Daniger, and McClone. And even with that, it just shows you how well balanced and how thoughtful Coach Crowe was just leading us through that season. But he was a father figure. He showed you respect, but yet he commanded respect. You weren't intimidated too much by him because he was conversational with you. he developed relationships with you. And let me give you an example of this, and I'll flip this picture up here. See if you could see that. But the fact that you got, during the game, you got Coach Crowe asking me, what should we do here? The previous play didn't work. What do you recommend? I mean, that just shows you the confidence he has in his players. And, he wasn't, I can't even find the words, but he just trusted you and, and asked your opinion on a lot of things. And that created an incredible confidence in us as athletes, and, enabled us, to really be a tight, united team. And, and even after high school, I had great relationships with Coach Crowe and Sandy. To this day, we stay in touch with Sandy, obviously, on a regular basis. But yeah, they're certainly, like parents to us.
Well, on that note, Marlon, first of all, I've been very fortunate enough to meet yourself more than once. And I am so proud of what you guys have done for St. Genevieve's now, yourself and Dan Horn. And I share it all the time because obviously we know the story that St. Genevieve's wasn't doing so well. I don't know, was it 93 or whatever year it was, where, there were, only 300 something students. Now you guys have turned that school into what it is. And I think you guys aren't too far away from winning the championship, to be honest with you. I think you guys changing facilities, going to LA Valley will draw more athletes, because now they're not going to be playing at Poly High School where the facilities aren't as nice. You know what I mean? And I think you guys are going to get some of the talent. I think you got the right coach there in Para. I think you got, with Juan and yourself and Dan Horn. You guys are great. You guys have going on now what we had going on in the 70s, in my opinion. And that's that family thing. And I would say what George was talking about in Lyndon, here we got this guy that I said, I was talking to Gabe Flores, who's a, St. Genevieve's graduate, who's a Major League Baseball scout. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he just said, God, what was Lyndon doing there? You know what I mean? This guy, think about a guy overqualified for a job. But you know what? Even when he stepped on campus, I didn't know he was an All-American. I didn't know he was all pro. He never fought in any of those things, but he did. Yep. He did demand respect. But he also treated us as individuals. He would treat you the way you would kind of want to be treated. You know what I mean? He treated you like a man, even though you're only in 10th grade or only in 11th grade. He treated you like a man because he wanted you to become a man. But I think more so than anything else, I think he realized, and I think what Sandy and Lyndon realized when they were there so quickly, is what a family type place St. Genevieve's was. And I think it rubbed off on them as much as we rubbed off as much as they rubbed off on us. But Lyndon, I remember, like George said, he's showing that picture right there. And I remember the championship game at halftime, and he goes, what do we need to do? Here's a guy, like George is saying, played in the All-American and in the world's greatest game with Johnny Unitas, played for Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry when they were assistant coaches, and he's asking an 18-year-old kid, what do we need to do? And he goes, if you see something, just do it. You know what I mean? So he just kind of opened it up and at that time in that game. But I think Lyndon, like I said, he was kind of the guy, if he barked loud at practice, you knew you meant to get busy. Because we would mess around a lot and have some fun out there. But he definitely was that guy that was affectionist, I guess is the word, whatever, not only on the football field, but throughout the campus. You know what I mean? And people would come up and talk to him. And he was not only family or a coach, Lyndon Crowe, to the players, but he was that to all of the students that were there as well. And again, and that's going back to what you asked. I think that's what you guys have going on there now. I really, truly do. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. And again, I think for myself, hearing so much about Coach Crowe, it's what drives me each day. Because I know, especially in the 70s, St. Genevieve was the premier high school in the Valley. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about Alameda, we've talked about Notre Dame, some of the other schools, but I know that, St. Genevieve, you can go in our gym and the CIF banners up on the wall from the 70s. we were dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate that. But, I just, again, I hear so much about Coach Crowe, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that the two of you have such affection towards him. I know, Kevin, I remember when he passed and you asked if you could just come out and sit and look out at the field for a little while. And, what a touching moment that was.
Mm-hmm.
That was just incredible. And so, I get up each morning and thrive to be the best because of all of you, for Coach Crowe. And you're right, it was tough. I mean, when I inherited this job in 2000, we had the longest losing streak in Division 13 football. We were 0-37. And, Mr. Horn and I sat down and we had a conversation and we said, how do we turn not only the football program around, but how do we turn our athletic program around? And it was family. It was a foundation of character. It was a foundation of we're going to love one another. And it was a foundation of we're going to get the right people in here to mentor our kids the way that Coach Crowe did. And I truly believe in all of our sports. We have 13 varsity sports right now. I feel we have all the right pieces to the puzzle because we have the right folks in charge to role model our student athletes. So, Kevin, I'm hoping, I'm praying. I think we're on the cusp of winning the CIF championship. I'm challenging my coaches. Who's going to be the first to do it? Who's going to put that banner up on the wall? And so we all go at it each day hard. So during this pandemic, we're still through guidelines, protocol, we're still out there training because we are going to win a CIF championship, and we're going to continue to make you guys proud and make Coach Crowe proud. I have had the opportunity to have some outings with Miss Sandy Crowe, which I love her. She's just full of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that family feel, because we had some of the alums back from the 80s and 90s, and they talked about how much Mrs. Crowe impacted their lives. What was that like? Was she a teacher here? Was she, what did Mrs. Crowe do exactly? Besides love you guys.
Go ahead, George.
She was, the coach's wife, the player's mom. In addition to teaching, she taught like home economics. She taught typing. She taught a few other things. She didn't go in there, wanting to be a teacher, but some positions opened up and they came in as a husband and wife team effort. So, but she just loved on the students. She just, again, it hit her immediately what a family, what a tight group St. Genevieve's was, and they fit perfectly. And she just loved on the students, and they loved on her, and it just showed throughout the campus.
She could keep it all under all in order, I should say. And I love her dearly. So if you get a chance to see this, Sandy, I know George loves you, and I love you like crazy. So thank you for everything you've ever done for us.
Yeah. And so for the two of you, we've talked a lot about football, but your experiences here through these walls of St. Genevieve, why should an alumni want to give back to this institution?
Well, I'm going to jump on this one. I think, the one thing, and this comes up all the time, and it has for 40-something years, but more so now that we're out of the school a little bit longer now, when you have get-togethers and you have people that weren't a part of St. Genevieve's, that went to different high schools and different things like that. And, they go, God, you guys are still this close. You guys are still, this is your high school friend. This is your grammar school friend. This is, like, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have had that. And I always tell everybody, I says, it's kind of crazy to think that little school, if you blink your eyes as you're driving down Roscoe Boulevard, you pass it, you don't see it, And I said, so much has happened from that little school, and what is it? You got the friends that you have met there that you didn't know until you got there. Not only that they became friends, they became your family, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things. And then I think when you look at it, the memories that happen on campus there, let alone that happen on Friday night, have not only stayed with you a lifetime, they've brought smiles to your face like what we're doing right now. It's kind of the memories. People always ask me about the glory days. Well, my glory days were, a Friday night. That's 2 hours out of the whole week, So I look back at the Monday through Friday, you know, my buddies hanging out, couldn't wait to get to see everybody, couldn't wait to get out of class or get out of school to go to Chase Park and play Frisbee on Wednesday night and play ultimate Frisbee. We were playing ultimate Frisbee, which is now a big thing. Back in 76, I'm trying to almost thinking, did we invent that game? You know what I mean? Did we make that game up? And but there's so many memories that have gone on at that little school, you know, that basically just was a 2-story building. The field that you guys have now with the turf on it is unbelievable. We didn't have that. You know, it was grass and there was lumps and it was all over the place, which you guys probably saw when you got there and you had to fix it. So that's what we practice on. You were fortunate enough to practice on that when you're a varsity. You didn't practice on that when you were a freshman. You didn't practice on that when you were in JVs. Freshman, you would go to Chase Park. You would go to Branford Park. So you would have to go to all these other different places to even get to practice. But I would think the friendships that turned into family, the memories that you had walking those hallways, because it was such a, you know, tight knit little hallways that you saw everybody every day, all day. And then the little lunch area that you went outside and sat down at, that the whole school was jammed into that little lunch area. You know, yeah, it's a special place. And I agree with you. I think there's you know, the alumni, ourselves, class of 78, you know, giving back. I think every one of us can do the $79 challenge thing, or the $79 challenge thing, or the 20 for 20 thing. And, you know, whatever we need to do to figure out how to get that done, we will figure that out. We'll get it done.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, again, Coach, yourself and Principal Horn and just the staff and what you guys done, the alumni. I mean, look at St. Genevieve's today is really incredible. We had our 40-year reunion there last year. People were just blown away at the facility. You know, again, the practice field, you know, beautiful turf, the basketball gym, you know, the weight room, the library that you guys have in there. It's incredible what you guys have done to that school. And that's one of the reasons why we should continue supporting and giving, because you're just creating an incredible environment there. You're not only a school of character, but then, you know, athletics as well. You guys are just up and coming, and you're going to be a force, you know, to be reckoned with all the way into the future, you know, with what's going on there. So that's, again, one of the reasons why we continue to support the school. And just because of the great memories and experiences that we received there as well, is certainly a reason to why we want to continue supporting St. Genevieve's. I mean, those were classic years. Those were, you know, unprecedented years that we were there, and we were fortunate to be a part of it and to be part of that history. And it's an honor really to give back and support and continue the St. Genevieve family.
Do you have one specific moment of how this place impacted you? You know, you talked about some coaches, but is there something that St. Genevieve has left with you from a standpoint of family or a standpoint of love that you could express to us?
Yeah, I'll hit on that first. You know, when a lot of the high school kids you're coming into a high school environment, and, you know, automatically there's groups or clubs that you kind of, or folks that you kind of gravitate to. Well, the thing with St. Genevieve's, you know, you had your athletes, you had your students, your academic, brilliant, bright-minded students, you had your band, you had different clubs. You know, there wasn't any separation in terms of, you know, all those groups. We were all united. We were all one family at that school. There wasn't, you know, like the football club, you know, versus the band club or anything like that. We just went in there all, you know, St. Genevieve High School. We were all there, loving on each other. We were all, you know, just one tight, you know, group, family members. We all got along. It was just a great support student body, really was, you know, from the coaches to the teachers to the students. I mean, we were just one big family, and that's what makes it kind of special. That's what makes it, you know, count, you know, 40, 50 years later, we're still a tight group family. And I guess that's what makes St. Genevieve so special. I mean, we had great athletic achievements, but we had some incredible, brilliant students that went on to do incredible things in careers, and we still love and support each other to this day.
No, I agree with that 100%, George. I go back again, Marlon, to 1975, freshman year. Here we were freshmen, but it's like, when you go to high schools now, if you're a freshman, you're like freshman, you know what I mean? But we weren't freshmen, we were St. Genevieve's. I remember, the Mike Mergens, the Jamie Kaminskis, the Brendan O'Sullivans, the Tim Tuttles, they were seniors, but they were like our big brothers. You know what I mean? And then you had the Mike Aragons, the Robbie Rondos, the Danny Billies, the Brian Spears, the Robert Spears. They were older classmates than us, but they were like brothers,
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to no matter what grade you were in, you stepped on campus there, you became instant family. People always had your back. People always were, caring about what was going on in your life and how you felt about, what was going on and how you felt about this and how you felt about that.
Like you said, don't treat him as a freshman and throw him in a locker. Treat him as a younger brother or sister.
Right.
And
absolutely.
That's what we're trying to continue from this feeling that we've gathered from all of you as alumni. So, people ask me, are you ever going to retire from St. Genevieve? I don't think so.
No, why not?
I don't think so. I mean, I love this place so much. And, I told someone the other day, until I get that CIF championship in whatever sport, I don't care. I'm not leaving this place.
Right. But like you said, I really thought you guys had a good shot this year.
Yeah, the Dan Murphy Foundation gave us a $30,000 grant, and it's a matching grant. So they ask us to match the $30,000 by the end of November. We're currently at about $14,000 that we've raised from our alumni donating. So we came up with two different challenges. Number one is the 20 for 20, which we felt as though it's the year of 2020. And hopefully everyone could pull out $20, give up the Starbucks for a couple of days and give that $20 for the 2020 challenge. The other was, like we said, we were specifically targeting your football team, the 78 CIF champions, cheerleaders, marching band members, whoever was a part of that 78 moment on December 15th, when you guys won that CIF championship. We really wanted to target that group and say, can you donate $78 for that 78 championship? If you were a student in the stands, whatever it was, remember what that felt like, because the two of you just allowed me to kind of experience and feel what you two felt on December 15th, 1978. So I would say to both of you, if you're in contact with former teammates, cheerleaders, band members, students of would have been the 79 class, but that 78 championship team, reach out to them and say, guys, it's a 78 for 78 challenge. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I want to say, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, Marlon, I think you guys are going in the right direction, but I also think you're a very class act. I think they got the right guy in the right position for that job. I remember the first time I met you and Dan Horn when I pitched the 50-year type reunion dealio. I didn't, and that thing kind of went off. But I respect the fact that what you and Dan have done for that school. It really, really makes me proud. Okay. I also want whoever watches this video to know about the other dude that's on this video with me. He is, me and that dude have spent since fourth grade together. I remember when he first stepped on our campus as a fourth grader. I was the big dude on campus at that time in my class. Well, this guy steps on and is the first guy to ever beat me in a race. So, we've been pushing each other ever since, but there's nobody that I have in my lifetime that I've shared better memories with, from sixth grade on, playing flag football together on some dominant teams in the CYO flag football program. And then going into St. Genevieve's and, what we talked about earlier, standing in a huddle and you're looking around and, I have this saying that I've always said, when things get tough, it's the fourth quarter, there's 2 minutes left. Who wants the ball? right? Who wants the ball? And I always could look over and I could always count on my buddy number 24 that, you know what, we need a play right now. Let's go make it happen. But that guy right there, nobody I have shared more memories with in my lifetime that I will treasure for the rest of my life. And that I love that dude very, very much.
You're killing me, buddy. You are killing me.
Love you, kid.
Let me end with this, Marlon. We're talking about the CIF championship, and thankfully, between Kevin's brother and just people collecting stuff, memorabilia for me, articles and whatnot. Let me read the article from the Daily News at that time, after we had won the CIF championship. Fred Eisenhammer was the reporter, and he talked about real quickly. He says Calvin McConville, who only threw 2 passes in the second half, both were for touchdowns. And another of his many whirlwind performances. And then Fred asked me, he says, George, what do you think of Kevin's performance? And he quotes me, says, I say, Kevin's performance was like every game. I played with him since 4th grade, and he never ceases to impress me. The thing about Kevin is that he's real poised, he's never nervous, never shaky, and he always comes out on top. And that, my friend, is a definition of a leader, of a quarterback, of a lifelong friend, and to this day, one of the most incredible relationships we continue to have. So that speaks volumes to what Kevin's done and how he leads us in terms of our class.
Love you, buddy.
Wow. Woo! You guys are to the heart this morning. My goodness. Well, I know that we're in great hands with the two of you as far as this challenge goes. We do want to achieve our goal, because we do want to continue to support those young men and women who attend St. Genevieve, who are excellent students, athletes, performers, whatever it may be, that don't have the financial means for us to continue to help them. So I would truly appreciate whatever you could do to help with our challenge. Well, guys, do me a favor, if you would. If you look right into your cameras to your former classmates and give them one good reason why they should give their $78 or their 20 for 20.
Well, again, class of 78, 79, we left an incredible mark at that school, and we were greatly impacted by that school as well. So it's just, it's an easy goal, 78 for 78. We're going to do it. Our class is going to step up, and it's very doable, and we're going to do it and support St. Genevieve's. Not only, in this just small amount financially, but just continue to support them, as student body alumni.
I think anybody that sees this video, and if they watch it long enough, and hopefully, I know we talked about a lot of different things, and to me, it warms my heart as much as it warms yours, Marlon, because, it's not like we sit back and, myself and George, we don't really talk about the glory days too much, that way. Our little code to me and him is hashtag, 22 to number 24. And that's pretty much all we say about the glory days to each other, pretty much, But I would say anybody that went to St. Genevieve's back in the day, what that little school did, anybody, I'm talking class of 72, 70s, I'm talking about the Raul Gomez, I'm talking about the Marty Slimax, I'm talking about the Mike McConvilles of 74, and I'm talking about in 75, Brendan McConville and Carl Schultes and Danny Proctor. And in class of 76, you got Sheila McConville and Ronnie Proctor, Johnny Proctor, Danny Billy Spears, and then you got John D. Luigi's and Danny Proctor's, and then you got all these different people all the way through every single class that we need to have them reach out to their classmates. So we need to, and I think reason why we should give back real simple. What that school has done for us in our lifetime, what I said earlier about memories that have shared a lifetime, that have given us a lifetime of smiles. Why would we not want to give back 20 for 20? And then the teammates of mine, for winning, for 78 in baseball and 78 in football, reach down into your pocket, miss a few Starbucks here and there, but the school needs us right now. You know, the school needs us to hit this $30,000 challenge. So let's step up and get it done, you know, and I'm going to try. I'll definitely reach out to as many people as I can personally, and I will talk to them as, you know, personally, as many of them as I can to get them to get it done for you. But I think that school has done so much for us over our lifetime, and going back, we didn't even know they were doing it for us when we were there. You know what I mean? It's like, if only if I would have known now what I would have known then, type thing. One of those things, you know. But yeah, that school did so much for us. It's our time to give back to them.